Welcome to another week of the Richmond Register Weekly Chat Podcast. I'm reporter Taylor Six, your host, and with me this week is Richmond City Manager Rob Minerich. Thanks for being here, Rob.
Thanks so much, Taylor. I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. And so you have been the city manager for over a year now. If you could, to kick us off, if you could tell us a little bit about the city manager form of government in Richmond and what you do in your position as city manager.
Absolutely. There's been in the position almost a year and a half now. Started June 25th, 2018. And there's actually three different forms of government in cities in Kentucky. You have a city council mayor form of government. You have a commission form of government, and then you have a city manager form of government. And the big difference with the city manager form of government is the mayor and commission hires a city manager to basically be the chief administrative officer to handle the day-to-day operations in reference to the budget and personnel policy. Berea, for example, they operate underneath a mayor-council form of government. So their form of government, really the mayor is like the CEO of the city. He can vote if it's a tiebreaker, and he really, kind of like a regular legislative form of government, he serves as the person that can veto legislation, make day-to-day decisions on behalf of the city. So that's kind of the two differences between Berea and Richmond, to give you an example. So in my role as city manager, it's my job on a day-to-day basis to follow out the approved budget by the mayor and commission, and also our personnel policies to keep the city operating efficiently.
And so when anyone needs anything done, they come to you first, right?
That's right. And that's good. That's a good thing. Since I've been in this position, we've done a better job of getting information out to the public, which is key, and we're making certain staff very accessible to the public, and I think that's very important.
Yeah. And so when I came onto the Register about a year or so ago, we both sat down for, one of our both first interviews, really, and we talked about some things that you hope to accomplish with the new commission and Mayor Blythe. What are some things that you think that, since we've talked from then, that you all have accomplished so far?
Well, I got to say, Mayor Blythe and the commissioners, they're a wonderful group to work with. They're very open-minded. And really, and other people will tell you this, this is the first time in probably, 8 to 12, 16 years that we've gotten back to a city manager form of government. So what's wonderful about this group is we sat down as soon as they were elected, and they made a list of priorities. We sorted through the ones we felt like we could get done, and we took them and ran with them. I think one of the biggest accomplishments, there's a lot of little ones. I think one of the biggest that we've made happen is purchasing a new building for our senior citizens.
Yeah.
The current senior citizen building is in pretty rough shape. We were able to purchase a new building, which is located out on 801 Brighton Avenue, just past the bowling alley, across from Richmond Center. Pretty much a brand new building, built in 2015. Appalachian College Association had been located in there. It's almost 11,000 square feet. State-of-the-art building. Feel like we got a really good deal on it. And we closed on it, I guess it was August, and in the process of getting everything in order to have them moved in 1st of January.
Right.
And that was one of the mayor's priorities, and he ran on that too, was taking care of the elderly. And so I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments we've gotten done in the first year.
Definitely.
And it's very exciting.
And I had an opportunity to visit that building when you all had the workshop meeting there, and it really is a gorgeous building.
Yeah.
So those senior citizens are going to be loving that, I'm sure, once they
I might
get
get
over
to
there.
use it someday. I hope so.
Maybe me too, who knows? But also, when we talked, I know one of the biggest things that citizens and the city officials all wanted to see was something with Water Street. And so that has finally kicked off a couple of months ago. If you could just kind of update us on the progress with that.
Yeah, we hired Bell Engineering back in the spring of this year, a very good engineering company out of Lexington that did a analysis of the issues that were going on with Water Street. And the initial design of that street included brick pavers on the surface, which everybody's very familiar about.
Oh, yeah.
And it caused issues with it was the brick pavers were installed to be able to absorb water down into the ground and help Water Street from not flooding. And it did work in theory. The problem that we ran into is because of all the water flow through the subsurfaces, it settled and caused all the unevenness. And if you ever drove down it while it was like that, it was pretty rough. So Bell Engineering came up with a new design. They started we put it out to bid, and Allen Company was the company awarded the bid. And they started first week in October. And the new design, what it does is it adds 12 to 15 new storm drain inlets.
Okay.
So when the water flows down to Water Street, there's an additional 12 to 15 inlets for the water to get to the big box culverts that are underneath the ground.
Gotcha.
Which can handle the flow. And they had to go in and dig up anywhere from 18 inches to 3 feet of subsurface. Take that out, put new geogrid down, new subsurfaces, along with adding the new stormwater drains and some trench drains that'll go across the road, and then they'll come back and asphalt it.
Okay.
And we feel like it's a permanent fix for Water Street. They actually are ahead of schedule.
Oh, good.
And we'll finish up by the end of next week. And what they'll have is just the first layer of asphalt down.
Okay.
So they'll have to come back in the springtime and put the final layer of asphalt on, and we'll be done with that. So I'm excited about getting that off my list of things to do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big thing, and everyone wants to see it happen. So it's almost there. Just a little bit longer. How are the businesses doing down there that are?
I feel
facing
like, we really have been hands-on with everybody down there. Rhonda Taylor at Subway, John Perkins at Top Shelf, and Pally's Liquor Store, and Winks, the post office, Kentucky Utilities. We got out in front of this, made them aware of what was going to happen, took their input on signage and traffic flow, and I think it's gone off pretty well. We also set up a Water Street mitigation fund, which actually businesses on Water Street that feel like they lost revenue because of the construction can fill out an application and submit it by January 21st, 2020. And we'll have a committee that will review those applications and determine if any money needs to be dispersed to them to reimburse them for lost revenue. So I feel like we've taken the proper steps to help businesses down there. We've had an open line of communication at all times. And knock on wood, we have a week and a half left. It's gone real smooth.
Good. Well, and after that project is another big one, I feel, the West Main Street project. I know there have been a couple of little hang-ups and technicalities with that one. So any time in the future we can see that get started?
Well, the West Main Street project, basically, it starts at the intersection of Main Street and Lancaster and goes all the way out to across from Arlington, which I want to say is Bennington Court. And there's actually 3 phases to it. And what that project does, the phase 1 has been approved by the Transportation Cabinet, and we received what they call a TAP grant, which is a transportation aid program. And what the project does for that corridor of our entrance to our city is it actually improves our sidewalks, makes them more accessible. It adds a multi-use lane along the road for bicycles. And it also cleans up a lot of the utilities that are there. If you drive down West Main Street, there's actually some telephone poles right in the middle of sidewalks.
Yeah.
So it moves all that stuff back out of the vision, the visual coming into town. And it'll bundle utilities as well. So it's a road improvement slash beautification project.
Yeah.
And I think the first phase goes from Lancaster to Parrish, and then we'll reapply for another $1 million grant. And the second phase will go from Parrish to Sunset, and then phase 3 would be Sunset to Bennington Court. And the cool thing about this is we've heard that the Transportation Cabinet is very interested in, if we complete this project all the way out to Bennington Court, which is, not right across from Arlington, that they may pick it up from there and take it on out and down the Robert Martin bypass, which would add a bicycle lane and some walking paths. So, you talk about quality of life for our community. I think this is an important piece of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, and this project will probably go on for many years, too.
Oh, yeah. It will be a definite long one, but
Yeah.
something, again, that probably should be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so another downtown facet recently that's a little bit more exciting, I guess, for some people is the recent adding of the Pocket Park of Millstone Park, introduced by Speedy Denny.
That's right.
One of a kind. If you don't care to just take a minute to talk about that and how it all kind of came to fruition.
Sure. Speedy Denny's been a friend of mine for years. He approached me, according to his notes, it was last fall, and we had a brief conversation, and he came up with the idea. Speedy's a wonderful citizen in our community, runs a great business, and he's a collector of Madison County history, all things Madison County history. And he asked me about using the green space between U.S. Bank and the Allstate building on Main Street, between Main Street and Water, for a park. And he collects millstones, which are the large, round rock stones
Yeah.
they used to in the mills back in the day. And it seemed like a great idea. We had a brief conversation about it. I floated it to the mayor and the commission after they were elected. They were on board with it. And again, this goes back to how wonderful our mayor and commissioners are. They're very open-minded, and they want to make our community better. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So met with Speedy and got him started on it. And, he really deserves all the credit. We provided signage, some support for some other things, but he really took the ball and ran with it, did the design, the installation, even tried to pay him for his labor involved with it, because 3 weeks out it wasn't complete, and I was like, oh, what's going to happen here? This isn't going to come together, because
Yeah.
we had a ribbon cutting date, had the signs and everything, and Speedy basically shut down his business for 3 weeks and made it happen. So it's a beautiful park. If you haven't been down there, I encourage you to go down and take a look at it.
It is really neat.
And we kind of are thinking about, with the completion of Water Street next spring, maybe incorporating some millstones on down Water Street
Okay.
in some of those landscaping areas.
Yeah.
It was a project that we want to thank Speedy for. And citizens that have ideas like this that make our community better, we're very open to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know he's been recognized, I think that day for the ribbon cutting, he got a key to the city.
Yeah.
He's the Grand Marshal in the Christmas parade, and then I know this week the Parks Board presented him with their own award, so he's definitely deserving. And
Well, and he's the Grand Marshal of
Yeah.
the Christmas parade, and stay tuned, because we have a special announcement Friday night for an upcoming event in 2020 that we're very excited about. I can't
Okay.
tell you what it is yet.
well, I'll be waiting on a text message from
Okay,
you.
I'll send it to you.
But continuing the theme of community involvement, one of the big topics that you, the mayor, the commission, and the community have all talked about and wanting to address is homelessness in the city. And I know about a month or two ago, there was a forum held to kind of talk about what can be done. And I know the commission has started forward on a couple of things. If you could just briefly talk about that.
Sure. The mayor held a homelessness forum on September 30th. Good crowd showed up for it. Got a lot of great feedback. And I think what we found out from the forum more than anything was how many churches and agencies and nonprofits are actually out there already working on this. And I think it was a turning point for us because we were able to collect all that information and understand who is doing what.
Yeah.
To try to help with not only homelessness but hunger. Those issues kind of go hand in hand with addiction and some other things as well. But we got a lot of good feedback since then. I've met with leaders in the community, and there's a lot of good ideas on moving forward. And actually, there's been a consortium of churches and some other groups that have formed volunteers to start what they call a room at the inn.
Yep.
And actually, Jamie Jordan with the Methodist Church is kind of the point guy on this, but I think last time I checked, there was 8 churches involved in providing overnight stays. What we did to support this program was offer them office space that we have on North 2nd Street in the best level building, 114 North 2nd Street, Suite B. And that starts Sunday night. So Sunday night between 4 and 6, anybody that needs shelter for the evening can visit that location, register with the group that's there, and they'll find them overnight shelter.
Okay.
So, this is the first step to, I think, bigger things to come. But again, it shows how strong our community is. You have a forum like that, you start talking about it, and you have momentum. Take it and run with it because people really want to help. And I've met with some other leaders in the community as well, and they feel like there is that interest there to where down the road, if we can designate a facility, a building, to be kind of a community resource center, to not only help with homelessness, but also help with providing meals. It might be where we have a social worker that can do some casework and get people help with addiction and other issues as well. So we had offered the armory on 2nd Street to the county to try to help with their jail overcrowding. We did receive a letter from them this week saying that they couldn't use it because it wasn't the cost to renovate the building to make it a secure site for prisoners was going to be more than it was worth. So we're taking a hard look at that building, maybe is being renovated for a community resource center, a homeless shelter. And there's the idea out there that if the city was maybe to provide the building and probably employ an administrator and a social worker, there could be a partnership of local churches and other entities that could form a board that would contribute so much money every year and actually operate the facility.
Oh, that would be great.
So again, it goes back to the community. The city's trying to provide the facility. We would employ 2 people, maintain the facility, and then you might have a group, 8, 10 people on a board that actually make the decisions on how to operate the facility. And the big piece of it is organizing the volunteers.
Yeah.
Because they really, since the forum, they've come out of the woodworks wanting to help.
Good.
So organizing the volunteers is important as well. But I think we're headed in the right direction with our homeless problem.
Definitely, and I wasn't there myself, but I did get to watch the forum online, and it seemed very heavily attended. So it's very, very good that there's so many people in the community that are willing to help. But Rob, I really appreciate you coming in and taking the time to talk with us.
Sure.
It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to hearing that news about what's to come next Friday.
Friday night, there'll be an announcement, and I tell people, I can't be everywhere, so our community is my eyes and ears.
Okay.
Don't hesitate to call me if you see something wrong or something that doesn't look right, or if you have a good idea. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much again.
all right.
I'm Taylor Six, and this has been the Richmond Register Weekly Chat Podcast. Thanks for listening.
This episode is brought to you by Eastern Progress Media Network Podcast. EP Podcast produces informational and entertaining shows to its listeners while giving EKU students the ability to gain valuable hands-on experience in their field. View all EP shows at easternprogress.com/podcast.